Okay, so let's talk about cholesterol. We've all had the terms good and bad cholesterol drilled into us, right? But honestly, that's way too simple. The real story is so much more interesting, and understanding it is key. So let's get into what's actually happening inside our bodies. What if I told you the whole good versus bad thing is kind of misleading, and that to really get it, you need to think about a busy city? A city with delivery trucks, garbage trucks, and even a problem with things getting rusty and causing these massive biological traffic jams. Stick with me, because that's exactly how we're going to break this all down. So before we can understand the traffic jams, we have to understand the highway system itself. Our body faces this huge logistical challenge, and honestly, the way it solved it is pretty brilliant. And here's the core of that problem: cholesterol. It's a fatty, waxy thing. You can basically think of it as an oil. Our blood, on the other hand, is mostly water. And you know from making salad dressing, right? Oil and water, they just don't mix. So how in the world does your body get this essential, oily stuff from point A to point B through a watery bloodstream? Well, it builds these amazing little transport vehicles called lipoproteins. Seriously, you can just picture them as tiny protein submarines. They wrap up the oily cholesterol on the inside, which lets them cruise right through the bloodstream to get where they need to go. Problem solved. Now, in this transport system, there are two main characters we need to know. First, you've got LDL, or low-density lipoprotein. This is our delivery truck. Its entire job is to haul cholesterol from the liver out to all the cells in your body that need it. Then you've got HDL, high-density lipoprotein. This is the garbage truck. It drives around, picks up any extra cholesterol lying around, and takes it back to the liver to be recycled or thrown out. Both of these are absolutely critical for things to run smoothly. So, if LDL is just a delivery truck doing its essential job, how did it get this reputation as the bad guy, the villain? Well, it's not the truck itself that's the problem. The problem is what happens when you have a massive traffic jam, when there are just way too many of these trucks on the road. And the whole process of how this goes from a traffic jam to actual arterial plaque, it really boils down to just 3 steps. Let's walk through them: infiltration, oxidation, and inflammation. First up, infiltration. So picture that highway, but now it's just clogged with way too many LDL delivery trucks. They start getting stuck, they can't move, and some of them actually push their way off the road and burrow into the delicate inner lining of the artery wall. They've gone from being in the bloodstream to being stuck inside the wall of the blood vessel. That's step 1. And that leads directly to step 2, oxidation. Once those LDL particles are trapped inside that artery wall, they get exposed to other molecules, and they start to, well, the best analogy is that they start to rust, just like metal left out in the rain. And this rusted LDL is now seen by your body as a dangerous invader, which, you guessed it, triggers your immune system. So your immune system sends in the cleanup crew, cells called macrophages, to deal with these rusted invaders. But here's the crazy twist. The macrophages just start gobbling up all this oxidized LDL, and they eat so much they get bloated and swollen. They turn into these things called foam cells, and these foam cells, they are the very foundation of arterial plaque. The body's attempt to clean up the mess is actually what creates the plaque. Wild, right? But wait, it gets even more detailed, because it turns out not all LDL trucks are built the same. You've got the large, buoyant kind of LDL. Think of these like big, fluffy beach balls. They just kind of bounce off the artery walls. They have a really hard time getting stuck. But then you have the small, dense LDL. These are like little, hard golf balls. And these are the real problem. They can easily burrow into the artery wall, and they rust way faster. So this is the key insight, the thing you really need to remember. What makes our body produce more of these dangerous little golf balls instead of the harmless beach balls? Well, the science is becoming incredibly clear on this. A diet high in sugar and refined carbs is one of the biggest things that pushes your body to make more of that hazardous, small, dense LDL. All right, enough about the villain. Let's talk about the hero of our story, HDL, the so-called good cholesterol. This is your body's built-in defense system and its master cleanup crew. And HDL is amazing because it doesn't just have one job. It has 3 distinct superpowers. First, it has this vacuum effect. It can literally go into plaque and pull cholesterol back out of those foam cells. Second, it acts as an anti-inflammatory shield, telling the immune system in the arteries, hey, calm down, stand down. And third, it provides antioxidant protection. It actually carries enzymes that can stop LDL from rusting to begin with. Okay, so now we get the story, right? The trucks, the rust, the cleanup crew. But how does this all translate to that piece of paper, that blood test report you get from your doctor? Let's decode the numbers you can actually see and track. But before we even get to LDL and HDL, we have to talk about a hidden player, triglycerides. Now, these aren't actually cholesterol. They're a type of fat that your body makes from any extra calories it doesn't need right away, especially from things like sugar and alcohol. Think of high triglycerides as a huge red flag for your overall metabolic health. All right, so here's the cheat sheet. For your LDL, those delivery trucks, you want that number under 100. For HDL, your garbage trucks, you want it high. More is better. Over 60 is fantastic. And for those triglycerides we just talked about, you really want them under 100 for optimal health. These are the main numbers to lock in on. But hold on, what's this number? 130? This is the goal for a different measurement, one that a lot of experts are starting to see as an even more powerful predictor of your actual risk. And it's called non-HDL cholesterol. The math is super simple. Just take your total cholesterol number and subtract your good HDL number. What's left over counts every single potentially harmful plaque-causing particle in your blood. It's all the delivery trucks in one single powerful number. And for that one, the goal is to get it below 130. You know, understanding the science is great, but putting it into action, that's what really changes the game. So let's dive into the playbook. What can you actually do to improve these numbers in your health? Okay, when it comes to diet, the strategy is pretty clear. First, get more soluble fiber from things like oats, beans, and apples. It literally acts like a sponge and pulls cholesterol out of your system. Second, do a fat swap. Less saturated fat, absolutely zero trans fats, and more healthy fats from things like olive oil and avocados. And the big one, cut way back on sugar and refined flour to stop your body from making those dangerous, small, dense LDL particles. And beyond food, your lifestyle is just as crucial. Things like steady cardio, what they call zone 2, like jogging or swimming, is one of the best ways to raise your good HDL. Making sleep a priority is a non-negotiable for lowering inflammation and LDL. And things like omega-3s from fish oil, for example, can be incredibly powerful for getting those triglycerides down. But I want to leave you with a crucial dose of reality here. Your HDL, it's an incredible defense system, but it is not a magic eraser. If you have an overwhelming number of LDL particles creating a massive mess, your HDL garbage truck simply cannot keep up. The absolute best strategy is to prevent the mess from happening in the first place. So you see, your cholesterol numbers aren't just stats on a page. They're telling a story, a dynamic story about what's happening inside your arteries, a story of delivery and cleanup, of damage and repair. And the question that leaves us with is a pretty powerful one. Now that you know the real story, what are you going to choose for your next chapter?